So first off, congratulations on, in preparation for your first ever marathon. It's a pretty big deal. You're about to join an exclusive club. Less than 1% of the population has completed a marathon, so you're about to join that 1% club, which is pretty cool. The big things thinking in this last week going into it is that all the work's already been done. You guys have done all of these practice runs with Miss Valenzuela, and there's really nothing you can do between now and race day that's going to make you better for race day. All the work is done. There's no special secret training session that you can do that's going to make it better. What you have in your tool bag is what you have for race day. So it's important to note that and not try to overtrain or cram like you would for a test in these last couple of days, because it's just not going to work out for you. So a couple of things to think about leading into the race. The main thing is nutrition. When you think about nutrition, you should be thinking about, obviously you should have a plan for the race. If you're going to eat gels, if you're going to consume liquid, whatever it is, you need to have a plan. For gels, typically the formula is about every 40 minutes. Gels should be available at pretty much every aid station on the run. There should be an aid station roughly every mile or so. And you can get those gels, like I said, 1 gel per 40 minutes. So depending on your running speed, that'll be different mile markers for a lot of people. Also important to understand that you don't want to be drinking big amounts of water during the race. If you want to just sip on it, that's great. Sort of the issue with that is that when we're running, we're sending all of the blood to our arms and our legs, and therefore there's not really a whole lot of blood going to our stomach to digest things. So things that are complex that take a lot to digest, our body doesn't have the blood in the stomach to digest it. That's why, if you're drinking Gatorade, deep to digest. So if you're really working hard, chances are that you're not going to be able to digest that, and it may cause you to have an upset stomach. At the same time, this is why I always suggest, the greatest sports drink in the world is actually Coca-Cola. It's the simplest form of sugar, therefore our body can digest it without really any work. The same reason that makes it bad for you in just casual setting is what makes it great for racing. Because it's really not that great for you in a casual setting because you digest it so quickly. In a race, that's great. It takes very little effort for us to digest it. We get the calories immediately. That little bit of caffeine helps boost us. Only problem with the LA Marathon is, unfortunately, Coke is not supplied on course. So what I would suggest is that if any of your family or friends are coming to support you, see if they can, locate right around Westwood and right around mile 19-20 when you're going to hit the wall, and provide you with that Coca-Cola to drink so that you can have that little bit to cover the last 6 or 7 miles. The only thing to note about that is if you start drinking Coke, you're going to need to drink Coke the rest of the time, because that sugar becomes, it just builds up and it burns so quickly that you're going to have that crash feeling about every mile unless you continually drink it. So if I would suggest you to carry any bottle, if you have a fuel belt or anything that you're going to carry with you, Coke would be the product to carry. Just know that you want to conserve it and take it in such amounts that you're able to sustain it that last 6 or 7 miles when you're really going to need it. Pre-race nutrition, obviously that's race nutrition, what you want to think about and have a plan, have practiced it. You certainly don't want to go in trying new things on race day. And that's said about, all things, equipment as well. You don't want to have new shoes on race day or some, new shorts or anything. You want everything you have on race day should have been tried and tested many times over by the time you're going to do this race. But pre-race nutrition, you want to start thinking about in the week leading up to. So about 2-3 days before the race, you want to sort of cut fiber out of your diet. So, lots of vegetables and things you want to cut out of your diet. And I know that sounds the exact opposite of what you've been preached to your whole life, like eat fruits and vegetables. But unfortunately, fruits and vegetables have lots of fiber, which make us go to the bathroom. And we sort of want to ease that up going into the race so that you don't have to go to the bathroom during the race. There are porta potties along the race course, but usually the lines are really long. So you could be losing 10-15 minutes off your time waiting in line to go to the bathroom. And that's just not a great use of your time. So you want to cut that fiber. going in, you know, there's a big myth about the like carbo loading. A lot of people think you have to just eat like an excessive amount of pasta the night before. That's not what you want to do. That's sort of what you want to do, but 2 days out. So the race being Saturday, on Thursday night, well actually Thursday during the day and night, you want to just consume a lot of carbohydrates. As many as you can. Big pasta dinner, pizza, crackers, everything you can get during that day to take in as much carbohydrates as you can. That way your glycogen stores are full headed into the marathon on Saturday. Friday, you just want to eat pretty normal. Again, keeping out the fiber. You want to eat, you know, carbohydrate based, but you don't have to overdo it. You don't have to like overload your stomach to the point where like you're going to have to go to the bathroom on race morning because you just consumed this obscene amount of food. So definitely eat a carbohydrate you know, based diet that Friday, but you don't have to overdo it. If you're not hungry, you know, you don't have to eat to, you know, sort of make up this deficit or anything like that. You know, sort of the next big thing is management of this race. It's important to understand that very few people in this race will survive the whole thing without walking. And I know a lot of you are going to think like, oh, I'm not going to walk. You know, I've practiced. I'm not going to walk. Truth be told, majority of you in this room are going to walk, and that's okay. The important part is we learn how to compartmentalize that and how to manage the walk. So as I said previously, mile 19, mile 20 is when you're probably going to hit the wall. That's typically, the human body can only train for 20 miles. So that last 6.2 is going to be difficult. So it's about managing that walk. So if you start walking with no intent and purpose, chances are you're going to lose a lot of time in that. Where if you can schedule your walks and sort of make landmarks, you're probably going to end up with a much better time. So what I mean by that is, if at mile 19 you just start feeling really awful, but you come up with a strategy that, okay, I'm going to walk through the aid station. So when I approach the aid station, I'm going to walk through it. I'm going to take in nutrition as I want. I'm going to take that time, and then 100 feet past the aid station, I'm going to start walking again, or I'm going to start running again, excuse me. That's a perfect strategy. That's a great strategy because it gets you reactivated. You're still engaged in the race. If you want to do something where it's like, all right, I run for 2 minutes, I walk for 2 minutes. Like, have that watch, be tracking that time, making sure that you're holding yourself accountable. Because if you don't have a goal within that and you're not compartmentalizing how that run's going to go down, chances are you're gonna walk a lot more than you have to, and you're gonna end up with a time that you're not super happy about. So certainly about management. It's about managing that time, managing your emotions. You know, standing on that start line with those 25,000 other people can be quite an emotional experience. I remember my first marathon, I was standing on the start line and I actually started crying, and I was like, I can't believe I'm about to do this. This is amazing. And sort of it hit me where I was like, wait a second, I got a lot of work to do before I can really celebrate this thing. So it's important to keep our emotions in check. And part of that emotional state is realizing that, like, it is going to be a long day. Regardless of whether you run 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, it's going to be a very long day. And so you need to understand that you don't have to worry about your pacing right off the bat. It's the first mile is very crowded in Dodger Stadium. It's going to be, you know, tons of people, very hard to move. If anything, you could probably walk the first mile and make the race a simple 25.2 mile race rather than trying to waste energy in that first mile. Which gets me to my point of pacing. So, you know, obviously in marathon, like, time is everything. A lot of you are gonna, you know, everyone sort of sets the benchmark at Oprah's time. And in 1994, Oprah ran the Marine Corps Marathon in 4 hours and 29 minutes. So sort of the benchmark that everyone tries to beat is Oprah's marathon time. And, you know, that's a great time to have. A great time to beat Oprah's time is a great accomplishment. But I always like to think of it as you should have two goals. You should have one goal that's like super optimistic, that if everything goes right, the wind's at your back, your stomach feels great, you're not fatigued, that's the time you're aiming for. And that, like, if all the stars align and I have the perfect race, this is the time I want. And then a second time, which is sort of my, okay, maybe things don't go perfectly, maybe I manage some stress, things like that. But like, this is the time I would certainly like to have. I wouldn't like to have anything over that time. And then you break it down from there. So like, once you have your overall time, you got to know what the splits are. What would be the average, minutes per mile on that pace? What's the average, 10K time? What's the half marathon time? What's going to be, what's going to be your time at the 20-mile mark? You want to know all those things so that you're able to hold yourself accountable and know where you are in progress to reaching toward those goals as you go along. That being said, with all those pace calculations and everything like that, again, like I said, the first mile is in Dodger Stadium and it's super crowded and it's very hard to meet any sort of specific mile time in that first bit. So if you go through your first mile and you're not on the pace that you want, don't panic. That's simply the first mile. It's a long day. It's a very long day. So do not panic, because you have plenty of time to manage those problems and manage that maybe lost time in the first mile. It's also important that first 5-6 miles of the LA Marathon is a little undulating. It's kind of up and down. You go up that big hill at the Disney Concert Hall, your pace is gonna slow a little bit. That's totally okay. Understanding that, one mile split in the marathon is not gonna make or break you is super important. It's also important to remember that there are different elevations within that course. So there are different times where miles may be mostly climbing and elevation gain, and then once you get into West Hollywood, you're mostly going downhill all the way through Westwood. So therefore, you're probably gonna make up that time as you go. So it's not something to really get super worried about. Don't lose your mind over a bad first mile. That's totally fine. Part of a marathon with that long day is just staying mentally engaged. You need to be mentally engaged, thinking about the run, focusing on it, so that you're able to complete it and feel satisfied. If you lose that focus or you start to get negative, like, everything's going to go downhill. Having that positive attitude and holding it out, that's how you're going to do well. That's how you're going to hold yourself accountable. That's how you're going to, know how to manage the rough patches. The biggest thing I can't express to anybody, doing endurance sports, whether it's, marathons, half marathons, triathlons, is this idea that you're not going to feel good all day. There's going to come a time when things don't feel good, and that's totally okay. It's totally okay to have moments where things don't feel good, but it's important to manage those moments and not get negative. If you get negative and you're just like, I don't feel good, I'm not going to make it, then everything's going to go downhill. But learning how to manage those rough patches and get on to where your second win, where you feel good and getting past that wall, that's the most important part. So it's really important that you stay positive. I can't really express how proud I am of all of you. This is a huge accomplishment to do this in high school. I didn't do my first marathon until I was a senior in college, so it's great that you guys are getting involved. I'll certainly be checking the tracker, seeing how everybody's doing. I hope you have a great race day. I hope the weather's on your side. I hope that no injuries spring up, and I hope that you have a great day. Best of luck to all of you. Manage the race, enjoy the race. When you're finished, celebrate. Eat whatever you want. Wear that medal with pride at school, and for you seniors, wear it at graduation with pride. It's certainly a huge accomplishment, and you should be incredibly proud. I know I'm incredibly proud of all of you already. Like, it's an amazing thing for you guys to be this involved this early on and sort of entering into the endurance space so young. So if you have any questions, you can tell Miss Valenzuela or Miss Neary. They'll forward them on to me. I'd be happy to answer anything you have. Best of luck to all of you. I'll be rooting for all of you. It's an amazing race. Enjoy it.